Hey legends, in this video we're going to take a look at mixing rock vocals, getting them to cut through but also sit in the mix really well. Alright, pretty massive difference. So the main thing is when you listen to that raw vocal, it's not very exciting. It doesn't really cut through the mix in the right way. It's a little bit nasally sounding, almost like there's a lot of sort of like 1 to 2K in the vocal. And we need to add a little bit of presence. We need to get it a bit more glued, a bit more compressed, a little bit saturated. And we need to get this vocal nice and exciting and sitting in the mix. So let me show you the processing that I use to deal with this vocal and to get it to sound the way it does in that after example. So our very first plugin in the chain, just a stock standard Logic channel EQ. The biggest thing that we have happening here is a 10 dB cut at 1.6K. So as I said, when I was listening to the vocal, it's kind of a little bit like nasally honky in those upper mids, and we need to kind of pull that down so that the vocal starts to sound a little bit more balanced. So I've turned everything off and now I'll just run you through each of these EQ moves. So we've just got a high pass filter at 120 Hertz, just rolling off any low end below that, just to get rid of any possible rumble or plosives. Then our next EQ move is that 10 dB cut at 1.6K. Let's have a listen to what this sounds like.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road, spreading fear with a loaded gun.
So you might think that dulls the vocal down a little bit, but as we go further down the chain and we start compressing and doing some more stuff to it, I think I actually ended up coming back and cutting this a little bit heavier because that nasally sound in the vocal kept coming forward. And then to kind of combat this cut a little bit, we have a smaller cut around 250 Hertz just to deal with the vocal getting a little bit more bloated in the low end now.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road, spreading fear with a loaded gun.
Just like a 3 dB cut at 250 Hertz. And then we're just boosting 1 dB of presence around 9K.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road, spreading fear with a loaded gun.
And then I just have a low pass filter rolling off some ultra high frequencies from 17K upwards.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road, spreading fear with a loaded gun.
And because we made such a drastic cut in those upper mids, just doing a 2 dB boost to bring back some level.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road, spreading fear with a loaded gun. Scared of lights beating from the sun. Don't stop us, yeah, we're almost done.
So you can hear that's made a huge difference. You can really hear how nasally it sounds when you turn this off and on. Okay, and then we're just gonna follow this up with a little bit of de-esser. So I've just got the Renaissance de-esser from Waves. This is the old version. I don't have the latest one, but you know, it still does what it does. We have our frequency band set to 5.5K, and we just have a shelf instead of a notch, and split mode. And then I just played with the range. We've got it set to -16, and then I just pulled the threshold down until I was getting enough de-essing happening.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road, spreading fear with a loaded gun. Scared of lights beating from the sun.
So I only want this to be reacting to the S's and T's mostly, but occasionally you'll get some words that are a little bit harsh in the upper frequencies and it starts to rein in on those a little bit, and that can be okay because it can kind of smooth out a bit of harshness in the vocal. But as long as it's not completely crushing it, it's going to sound okay and natural. It's when it's really ducking down and holding it down that you're going to get that lispy sound, which we don't like.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road, spreading fear with a loaded gun.
Like that. And then we're following this up with the Waves Renaissance compressor, and I just have this set to the smooth mode and electro, and then quite a fast attack and just like a medium-ish, slowish release. A 3:1 ratio, and then I just played with the threshold and the gain to kind of level match it and get about 3 to 6 dBs of gain reduction.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road, spreading fear with a loaded gun. Scared of lights beating from the sun. Don't stop us, yeah, we're almost done.
So that's really thickening the vocal up and helping rein in the dynamics. As you can see, the vocal looks like it was tracked with a compressor. I'm fairly certain I used a Lindell 7X500 or something like that back in the day. This is quite an old session that I'm playing with here. And that thing's pretty aggressive, but you can hear this vocal still needs more compression. All right, and then we're following this up with the CLA effects, and all I've got here is a bit of tape phase. And for me personally, I always love a little bit of chorus or some sort of like stereo effect on the vocal, even if it's just a tiny little bit.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road. Spreading fear with a loaded gun. Scared of lights beating from the sun. Don't stop us, yeah, we're almost done.
I'm pretty sure this plugin adds a little bit of gain, even though there's like nothing happening. Look at the input and then the output.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road. Spreading fear with a loaded gun.
You always gotta watch plugins. They try and trick you. So many plugin developers are very guilty of this, that they make the output a little bit louder. Or if it's a preset, they make sure the preset's a little bit louder. You really have to gain match things correctly to know what it's doing. But in this case, I'm just gonna leave it. It doesn't really matter. But you can just see they're very sneaky. They try and fool you with loudness. All right, now next thing, we're following this up with CLA vocals. So I don't really use this plugin that often. I used to use it a lot back in the day, but every now and then I bust it out and it works a treat. So in this case, it's working really well on this vocal. And all we're doing is cutting a little bit of the upper frequencies on this bass channel, tiny little boost of bite, which is kind of like sort of like the upper mids. And then we're using the push, which I think is more like a LA2A style compressor. And then we have a tiny bit of reverb with the tight setting, just a little bit, and then a little bit of the slap. So both of those things add some nice ambience to the vocal. And then again, we've got the pitch on with the stereo, just like bottomed out to the bottom, just adding a little bit of that kind of chorusy stereo effect to the vocal.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road. Spreading fear with a loaded gun. Scared of lights beating from the sun. Don't stop us, yeah, we're almost done.
As you can hear, all those little moves are just adding like a polish to the vocal. So it's cleaned up that low mids a little bit, that little bit more excitement with the bite. And then that tiny bit of reverb and slap is just adding a little bit of depth to the vocal. And that little bit of extra compression is really holding it all in place. And then we're following this up with Decapitator for a little bit of saturation, just pushing the drive up to about 5 with the mix knob at 50%, and we just have it on our A mode, and we're rolling out any low end below 132 Hertz. We've just pushed the tone up slightly towards the brighter side, and then we've just pulled the high cut back a real tiny bit to around 18K.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road. Spreading fear with a loaded gun. Scared of lights beating from the sun. Don't stop us, yeah, we're almost done.
So you can hear that's adding some nice excitement, a little bit of grit, which is what our rock vocals generally need. A little bit of distortion, saturation, it goes a long way. And then lastly, I'm just using Baby Audio's Smooth Operator to kind of compress those upper mids again. So we're just catching any of those peaky resonances around 1 to 3K in this sort of region here.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road. Spreading fear with a loaded gun. Scared of lights beating from the sun. Don't stop us, yeah, we're almost done.
So yet again, just polishing that vocal up a tiny bit more, just controlling those upper mids. Let's hear our before and after again.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road. Spreading fear with a loaded gun. Scared of lights beating from the sun. Don't stop us, yeah, we're almost done.
Massive difference. You can hear how nasally the vocal is when we turn the processing off compared to when we have it on. There's a lot of reasons why the vocal might have sounded that way, and probably would have been better with a different mic choice. But I'm pretty sure when I tracked this back in the day, I didn't have that many mics to choose from. So you have to work with what you got. And that's what we're doing here. We're turning this into something a lot thicker and punchier. Okay, so let's hear this in the mix one more time.
We stole your hearts, now we're on the road. Spreading fear with a loaded gun. Scared of lights beating from the sun. Don't stop us, yeah, we're almost done. The safe house nowhere inside. Like a moment ready for the blow. Shut down.
So a massive difference. And you can see the peak volume of these is very similar. If anything, the raw vocals a little bit louder in peak volume, but it doesn't sound louder. It sounds quieter. It doesn't sound as clear. Whereas our processed vocal is sitting at a very similar peak volume to that, and it sounds way louder, way crisper, way bigger, and way fuller and clearer. And we're not taking up any extra headroom. So pretty awesome once you get your processing right, how you can get that stuff to sit in the mix without it actually being louder. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below and let me know what you thought. If you're keen to support the channel, make sure you check out the description link below. You can go to my website and you can check out my range of drum samples. If you're keen to check out my drum samples, check out this next video coming up where I'll show you how I use them in a metal drum mix.